Hades is, Hades is, well... Hades is a game.
Landed headlong into danger for the past 6 chambers or more.
Hades puts you into the shoes of a person of ancient Greece by showing us how homosexuality is always the right option. Developed by tenured indie developer Supergiant Games, Hades lives up to its developer's name. This game has more polish than Warsaw. A dense story, insane soundtrack, addictive gameplay loop, explosion sound effect, gorgeous art style, and stylish anime men. You play as Zagreus, son of the god of the underworld, Hades. After getting his Xbox taken away by his grumpy old man, Zagreus decides to run away from home. The only problem is, he lives in London, so everywhere outside of his house is filled with hostile and dangerous creatures. Using his trusty Stygian blade and powers granted to him by the other gods, Zagreus has to fight his way out of the underworld so he can live up there with his cooler family. But if he fails, at least he just gets to go back home. Oh, the House of Hades. I always loved Percy Jackson. Who's this?
Welcome to the House of Hades, where... Wait, I know you. Guess that means you died out there, huh? Well, don't be sad, though. Pretty much everybody dies sometime.
Please, give me your number! Please!
Every run starts at your house in the heart of the underworld, where you can do a number of things before trying to break out. First, you can talk to your many friends and relatives standing around the house, like your father.
Stupid boy. I told you nobody gets out of here, whether alive or dead.
Who seems happy to see you. There's also Nyx, who's not just your stepmother, she's the mother who stepped up, as the whole reason you're almost able to escape in the first place is because of her powers. There's also Achilles, the legendary warrior, and Hypnos, sleepy fail-son BF. More people will join you in the house as you attempt to escape more and more, so you should talk to them, because there is unique dialogue basically every time you interact with them. Supergiant Games is a group of employees that have attained godhood and create games with infinite content without developer crunch, so there's a lot of stuff in Hades that most other games don't have. How many roguelikes have you played that have a room editor? Yes, hello contractor, I was wondering if you could change the carpets of this place. In your room you have the most important item, the Dark Mirror. Just like in other roguelikes, if you die in the game, you die in real life. The Dark Mirror helps soften that blow by giving you permanent upgrades you can carry into your next run. Not everything of course, but some worthwhile stuff. Like boom, by upgrading that I can now die one extra time before I game over. The mirror is kind of like if you died as Jeff Bezos, you reincarnated with his credit card, but only with access to the money he made off the Fire phone. Once you've done all of that, you're all set. Equip your keepsakes because it's time to get the hell out of hell. Just don't forget to pet the dog.
Here, boy. Just as long as one of your 3 heads enjoys these pets.
So against the underworld's scariest soldiers, how is Zagreus supposed to win? One of the biggest upgrades Zagreus can get is the Daedalus Hammer, which fundamentally alters how his weapon works for the rest of the run. For example, now the sword shoots energy waves every time it attacks. Zagreus is going to need every upgrade he gets against the enemies of Tartarus. The first of 4 floors of the underworld, Tartarus is home to such kind souls as Summon Skull, Dangerous Drunkard, Bigfoot, and the Big Beam. Oh, and also the Bigger Beam. I guess at this point I should explain what this game is. Hades is a roguelike action RPG where you... Nah, I'm just kidding. All you really need to know are 3 things. Your goal is to escape the underworld, you traverse the underworld through a series of randomly generated chambers filled with enemies, and each chamber has a specific reward in it, and you have access to a basic attack, a special attack, a cast, and a dash with invincibility frames. Knowing how to use all of these tools to a high mastery will be integral to surviving the nastiest of encounters. Learn your moves, and that will be all you need to beat everything that stands in your way.
You're free, tortured souls trapped in a crystal thing.
I understand you've been in contact with my father. Your Uncle Zeus, I mean. He's taken interest in your plight. You should feel honored.
Well, you'll also need these things. Once a god has decided you ball hard enough for the big leagues, they can offer you a boon which will augment your basic abilities or add some unique bonus to your gameplay. For example, earlier in this run I received a boon from Zeus. As king of the gods, he likes to remind the denizens of the underworld that they are only one step away from getting electrocuted at all times, which is why every time I dash in this run, it leaves a bolt of lightning in my wake. Athena here is the goddess of tactics and 1000 IQ plays. She gave me a boon that boosts the damage of my basic attack and makes it reflect any attack it collides with, effectively turning my sword into a baseball bat. There are dozens of different boons to choose from for your escape, and each one will help you in a different way. You can get them from random rune rewards, or from this place. Oh, hey buddy, lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? Yeah, that's what I thought you would say. Karen's shop can randomly show up in your runs, and if you save up enough lunch money you steal from the enemies you kill, you can cash them in for healing items, or upgrade materials, or even boons. Gods typically love their boons being bought from Karen's shop, and they will react accordingly.
It feels unseemly to make contact from that most unpleasant boatman's stash of ill-gotten wares. Nonetheless, this was an opportunity.
Well, that just about does it for me, Karen. It's time I move on through this mysteriously skull-shaped door, which I'm sure will have nothing bad behind it to stand in my way. Oh, for God's sake.
You'll get past me over my dead body.
For our first floor boss in Zagreus' bizarre adventure, we have Megaera, the chillest of her three sisters, the Furies. And yeah, this is about as chill as they get. Meg has 4 phases, where she'll call in waves of extra enemies to try and distract you. Meg looks like this, not like this. Make sure you remember this when she's dashing directly towards you at light speed. Her patterns are easy enough to recognize in the beginning. She'll dash towards you in a straight line, and if she gets close enough, does a spin with her whip in a wide area around her. This is Hades' secret way of getting you to learn something. Figure out your dashes. Get comfortable with the space your dash goes, how quickly you can do one, and the invincibility it gives you, and you'll be able to easily avoid Meg's attacks and punish her for it. At least before the drone strikes. When Meg reaches half health, she starts making Oppenheimer sweat. This boss fight was sponsored by the Shadow Government. Her 2 moves involve dropping waves of orbital strikes on Zagreus' current location, or spitting out waves of normal bullets in a cone in front of her. The biggest threat these face to you is mental damage, since you can dodge the bombs with a well-timed dodge, and for the bullets? Remember the boon I got from Athena? Meg is a great introduction into the skills you'll need to survive the floors that come after her. She's the perfect gatekeeper because if she manages to kill you, you weren't going to make it out of hell anyway. Luckily for me though, I'm in this for the long haul.
Closer to the surface.
Okay, elevator, sick. I wonder what waits for me on the 2nd floor. Welcome to floor 2 of Hotel Hell, and wow, it is way hotter here than I remembered. Let's start with Asphodel's newest threat, Asphodel. Everywhere is surrounded by the primordial lava that melts everything it touches, so standing in it for too long will mean you take a little bit of damage. This goes both ways, however, so if you manage to find a way to launch terrestrial enemies into the lava, you can watch them burn. Speaking of enemies, there are a lot of explosions on this floor. Guy that throws homing bombs, guy that throws huge bombs, guy that jumps to you with a bomb strapped to his chest, and it's gonna go off in 3 seconds! There's also various skeletons who shoot various laser waves, and gorgons who will make it pretty hard to do anything. In a place like this, I imagine there's nowhere to take a break, and oh.
She's always singing.
Looky who.
Oh, never mind. If you're lucky enough, you may run into Eurydice, who will either strengthen your boons or strengthen the boons you get in the future. Take the time to listen to her song as well. I wonder what's got her so sad. Okay, that's enough chilling. Time for the Death Barge. The Death Barge, the Barge of Death. 3 action-packed waves of enemies that each spawn in with a crystal that makes them all invincible if you don't kill it first. Confined to a space with limited mobility and traps all over, it can be pretty daunting to deal with. But hey, at least it's less annoying than your alternative, Medusa and her pet cartoon anvil that falls on your head.
Lady Artemis.
Oh hey, new relative. I'd like to introduce you all to Olympus's coolest lesbian aunt. Being the goddess of the hunt, Artemis's boons offer the most fun changes to your loadout. More damage. Her boons have a focus on adding critical strike chance to your moves, which doubles the damage of an attack if it goes off. This time she's offered to lend Zagreus her power by filling up the God meter. Using 1 bar of the God meter shoots 1 homing arrow, but filling it up all the way shoots 10, with each one having a chance to crit for double damage, a surprise tool that'll help us later. We should be ready for the boss now, which I'm not really sure where this music is coming from. Well, I guess that would explain it. This just in, the news lied to us. You can kill a snake by cutting off its head. The only problem is snakes have 10 heads. The Bone Hydra fight reminds you that hell is hot, and the lava you keep dashing into by accident is way hotter. Hydra has 3 phases and 3 moves: jump, slam, and blast. At the start of phase 2, he summons 3 extra heads at the corner of the room that can do the same things and more. Some of the heads shoot shockwaves, some of them summon more enemies that also shoot shockwaves. 2 examples is enough. You have to kill all 3 of the extra heads to deal damage to the original, and once you do all of that, he goes and summons 6 more. This fight does a good job of prepping you for later. It is the most chaotic fight thus far, and the least chaotic fight for the rest of the game. Do your best to avoid getting hit by stray projectiles coming from heads you haven't even attacked yet across the screen from you. Also important, use your AoEs. Try to hit multiple heads at the same time to speed up your fight. Once you take out those heads, the main Hydra is vulnerable again. Usually taking him out would take a long time, but remember Artemis's call? Maybe we should take advantage of that.
That is bullshit.
Oh hi, remember me?
This is the greatest game ever made. So after we gave Bone F Hydra his relaxing drive through downtown Dallas, we can arrive on floor 3, the Underworld VIP Lounge, Elysium. Immediately, things are different from the other floors because the floor traps reset after they're used, and the enemies never stop chasing you. Being the residence for all the Underworld's greatest hits, there is a whole new cast of enemies waiting for you on this floor. First and foremost being the chariots, who forcibly ask you where my hug at every time they lay their eyes on you. There's also witches that spew huge clumps of projectiles and floating orbs that shoot butterflies. Besides them, there are the exalted enemies, also known as spear guy, sword guy, shield guy, and bow guy, that are cooler than your regular enemy. When they die, they drop their soul on the ground, and if you don't kill their soul, they will respawn. You have to kill them twice. I always loved Sekiro. And yes, if they're armored, their soul will also have armor. If there's one thing you must focus on in Elysium, it's finishing your build. From here on out, there are no pushover enemies, so you're going to need to find every way to upgrade your best skills. Get more boons from the gods, upgrade your boons with pomegranates, or get more Daedalus hammer upgrades. Whatever you choose to do, you're going to want to make sure you're able to stand toe-to-toe with the champions. Especially champions like this guy. Asterius is one of 2 mini-bosses, and if you can't tell by the boons, I didn't run into him in this run. This is B-roll from a different run, because the other option for a mini-boss is, oh god, please make it stop, I'll do anything. The Bull's moveset is pretty one-dimensional, but everything hits like a truck, and that truck usually takes up a quarter of the arena. Figure out when he's going to swing and get behind him for almost guaranteed safety, otherwise you're in for a world of pain. At half HP, he starts having you do geometry with more damage and laser beams coming out both sides of his slams. Sometimes he will start running at you. He will not stop, and he will catch up to you. Use the battle arena to your advantage and have him run into a wall to get him to stop. Overall, Asterius is a fairly easy to understand mini-boss. If you've made it this far, you shouldn't have much trouble taking him down, which is good because for the boss fight you're going to have to fight him again. And this time he has a friend.
If you seek a swift and righteous death, you fiend, you've come to the right place.
The boss of this floor is Asterius and the guy that killed him, Theseus. I would be mad as hell if I'm the Bull of Minos. Imagine Iron Man and Thanos teamed up to kick your ass. Everything about Asterius is the same, except now you have to fight him while Theseus is aiming for cheap shots the whole time. If you're close to him, he'll do a spin attack, and if you're far away, he'll throw his spear at you. He also has his shield up almost the whole time, so you can only deal damage with backstabs. You'll probably want to take out Asterius first. Okay, Bull down. Since Asterius' second phase doesn't change that much, I bet it's the same with Theseus. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like you are the Olympians' only favorite demigod. Theseus calls upon one of the gods in his second phase, which alters his moveset to be much scarier. You'll need to be careful in dodging his attacks since there is a lot more of them now. Plus, in this particular run, any hit I take makes me take damage over time from Dionysus' alcoholism. Overall, this boss fight is very good. The palpable increase in boss health bars from Asphodel to Elysium prepares you for the rude awakening of the final floor. Hopefully, with the build you've fostered thus far in the run and the skills you've picked up battling 35 chambers of enemies, you can manage a win against Theseus, Asterius, and their hundreds of fans cheering for them in the stands. Oh, and look, one of those fans is cheering for you! Well, this is the final elevator. Make sure to heal yourself, purge any boons you might have to, and change around your keepsakes, if you can. From here on out, you're either escaping, or heading home the hard way. This floor is actually, pretty fast. Karen's got an upgraded shop if you've saved some money, unlike me, and then you can walk right up to the door and oh, never mind. Cerberus blocks the way to the surface, but even hell doesn't stand for animal abuse, so you'll need a different idea. Time for some gambling. There are 5 tunnels you can enter with different rewards at the end, and each one has a chance to contain a bag of food that you can bribe Cerberus with. You just have to get lucky enough to pick the right one and survive the whole way through. Survive what, you ask? Allow me to introduce you to the residents of Styx. You have rats, the Big Beam on steroids, Carpet Bomber, and the Blowdart Brothers. The rats and the Blowdart Brothers can inflict you with poison, which will take your health down by 1 every half second, which increases in damage every few seconds that can only be cleansed with a fountain located somewhere in the room, and if you don't find this fast enough, you will die. There's also razor blades flying across the screen that can chunk you. That couldn't have been over faster. After defeating Cerberus, you can finally access the land of the living. But first, someone stands in your way.
Oh, of course.
I never grew accustomed to the air up here. It gusts senselessly whichever way it pleases. I suppose you must prefer it to the stillness of the air below.
Yeah, so Dad's not very happy about us leaving without texting him first. The fight with Hades puts everything you've learned to the test. Damage is at an all-time high. He summons extra enemies with extra armor. He spawns skulls that can create shockwaves on the ground if you don't kill them fast enough. His spin attack takes up half the screen, and he can disappear at will. On top of that, his health bar is massive. You are going to need to play at your best to avoid getting turned into the God of Death's next customer. Father-son bonding has taken a different turn. Luckily for us, we have been planning our run for this. We can deflect his attacks, use our God's Call to chunk him, and electrocute him every time we avoid his attacks. All of that combined allows us to make pretty short work of our daddy and give him a taste of his own medicine.
To have been told this long by my own ungrateful child. I would expect such treatment from my brothers, but from you...
Congratulations, you've made it to the real final boss. Jesus is back, and he's not crucifixing around. This Hades is seeing nothing but red, and he can do this. All of the rules of the previous phase still apply, except there's more stuff on the screen than there is when I'm editing this video. So if you can really give Daddy a taste of his own medicine, you'll have to prove it by doing it all over again.
Sing, 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 sing!
Oh. Well, that sucks. But wait, remember that upgrade I made at the Dark Mirror in the beginning that lets me die one extra time? Yeah. Let's finish this.
Escape.
Yeah, that's right. I had to grind for this view. After sufficient walking around, we have a job to do. Hey, Mom. After some explaining, Persephone, Zagreus' mother, reveals that she had no idea who was alive. Zagreus catches her up to speed just before he...
However long it takes.
Yeah, he can't stay there long. But it's okay. There is more to Zagreus' story. He just has to escape... What was it? Oh yeah, 9 more times. Should be simple enough, right? Oh, for God's sake.